SuperTalk Mississippi Media production.
Looking for a ride you can actually rely on? At Southeast Auto Direct in Iuka, we don't just sell cars, we back them up. Home of the free 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty. We offer the best prices on the cleanest pre-owned inventory in the market. Visit us on Highway 72 or shop online at southeastautodirect.com. Your next journey starts here.
Show was previously recorded.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man.
Good morning and welcome to Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Thanks for being with us. Friday morning, today is June 5th, 2026. Glad to be with you. It's a super regional Friday. We've got baseball coming up today, baseball coming up tomorrow and all weekend long. It looks like the weather's going to cooperate all the way around. Mornings is brought to you by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. Ever notice how some places still know your name? At Community Bank, that's how banking works. We're a bank that knows community because we live here. And when you walk in, you're more than an account number. No matter what your banking needs are, here you'll talk to real people who care about your goals. Community Bank, a local bank built on relationships. Stop by your neighborhood location or learn more at communitybank.net. Community Bank, rooted in our community. The C Spire text line is always open, 601-879-4395. Be sure to check them out online at cspire.com. C Spire, customer inspired. Weather across the state today, going to be nice. A little bit warmer maybe than it was yesterday. Really nice the last couple of days with humidity down a little bit and a little bit of a breeze out of the north. But today, Holly Springs, you've got a high of 86 degrees with an overnight low in the mid-60s. Mostly sunny, maybe some clouds this afternoon with a really low chance of showers or thunderstorms. It's going to be warm and humid with winds light and out of the southeast. Opposite end of the state, Ocean Springs, 83 today for your high. Overnight low in the mid-70s. Chance of showers and thunderstorms this afternoon and into the evening. Going to be breezy at times as well. Coastal impacts like rough surf may apply in the day tomorrow. So if you're trying to get out in the Gulf, be careful out there. We will pop outside the state of Mississippi for two other weather forecasts. This one applicable for Ole Miss fans. Auburn, Alabama, 86 degrees for the high today. Going to be in the low 60s overnight. Mostly sunny, partly cloudy, really low chance of precipitation. So should be a great forecast for baseball tonight with Ole Miss and Auburn from Plainsman Park. And then if we look ahead one day, we look to tomorrow's forecast in Athens, Georgia. It's going to be hot, 89 degrees for the high tomorrow in Athens, an overnight low in the low to mid-60s. Partly to mostly cloudy, very low chance of showers, warm and sunny. So hopefully some of the weather delays that plagued much of the southeast last weekend for baseball are out of here. Not going to be an issue this weekend. Let's see. Mark Wahlberg was born on this day in 1971. So that makes him 55 years old today. The American actor, producer, and former rapper. He rose to fame first as Marky Mark with Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. He starred in a ton of films, including Boogie Nights and The Departed, and Ted, and the Transformers series. Also known for his fitness brand and his business ventures. Now he's just Mark Wahlberg, but, you know, I guess he could always go back to Marky Mark if he wanted to. Ron Livingston was born on this day in 1967, the American actor famous for Office Space, played the role of Peter Gibbons, also Band of Brothers and TV shows like The Conjuring Universe and Loudermilk. The great saxophonist Kenny G was born on this day in 1956. He is one of the best-selling instrumental artists of all time, famous for those smooth jazz hits. Brian McKnight was born on this day in 1969, the American R&B singer and songwriter, known for ballads like Back at One. And then Pancho Villa, I guess? Pancho Villa, if you want to southernize it. Pancho Villa was born in 1878. Mexican revolutionary general and guerrilla leader. He was one of the key fighters in the Mexican, or key figures, a fighter and figure, I guess. Key figures in the Mexican Revolution. One more for you, John Maynard Keynes, the influential English economist whose theories shaped modern macroeconomics and government policy. So maybe we've got him to thank for some of the issues with the economy. Probably not. Today in 1968, Senator and presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy was assassinated by Saran Saran at the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles. That was just moments after winning the California Democratic primary. His death shocked the nation and altered the course of the 1968 election. 1967, the Six-Day War began as Israel launched a preemptive surprise airstrike against Egyptian airfields, leading to a conflict with Egypt, Jordan, and Syria. Israel achieved a rapid victory, significantly reshaping the map of the Middle East at the time. In 1944, tomorrow is D-Day. In preparation for D-Day, over 1,000 British bombers dropped thousands of tons of bombs on German defenses along the Normandy coast, and Allied ships began crossing the English Channel. So much history tied to D-Day. We'll talk more about that on Monday as well. We'll kind of look back and try to honor those men who gave the ultimate sacrifice in the D-Day invasion and really the launch of the United States into World War II. Well, that's not entirely fair. I guess it was Pearl Harbor that brought the United States into World War II. D-Day was the turning point in the war, or the beginning of a really long road in the war. I feel like I'm probably not being as accurate as I should with my World War II history there, but you understand what I'm saying, I hope. 1947, Secretary of State George C. Marshall delivered a speech at Harvard outlining the Marshall Plan, a major U.S. initiative to help rebuild Western Europe after World War II. And it was on this day in 1956 when Elvis Presley performed Hound Dog on the Milton Berle Show, with his energetic hip movements earning him the nickname Elvis the Pelvis and sparking controversy. Couple of news stories for you. A man is in custody after allegedly shooting a woman multiple times near a Vicksburg car wash. On Wednesday, around 7:50 p.m., the Vicksburg Police Department responded to the 2000 block of Hope Street near a local car wash in reference to the shooting. At the scene, authorities discovered a woman identified as 47-year-old Clorinda Turpin suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. She was transported for medical treatment, but later succumbed to her injuries. The preliminary police investigation indicates the incident stemmed from a domestic-related dispute, and a source talked with SuperTalk Mississippi and said that the two were in a relationship with one another. Officials say the suspect, identified as Jeremy Wright, fled the scene. After speaking with newly minted U.S. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen and Deputy Secretary Troy Edgar during a Senate subcommittee hearing on Tuesday of this week, Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith was given positive news. She was told by both officials that President Trump had approved a major disaster declaration request from Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves for Franklin, Lamar, Lawrence, Lincoln, and Wilkinson counties. That was following the series of tornadoes in early March that just crushed that region of the state. All that remains in the process of getting much needed aid to Mississippians is a final assessment of the request so that officials will know how much money needs to be doled out. Markwayne Mullins said, "My understanding is that we're still working with the state to do the final assessment. We know the declaration has been made by the governor. We know the president did accept that declaration, but now we're looking at what the cost is for funding to actually reimburse for public assistance." From the storm, 8 tornadoes touched down in Mississippi, injuring 26 people and damaging or destroying more than 425 homes and businesses. Just getting started with you on this Friday morning. We are going to have we had a really good week. Great conversations with a variety of guests, and we've got a bunch of those for you. When we come back, we will hear from Sean Tindall, the Commissioner of the Department of Public Safety. I visited with him yesterday on Mornings with Richard Cross. It's a 2-part interview. Then we'll wrap up the hour with your Mississippi Lottery update and your Pearl River Resort sports update on this Friday morning, June 5th. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank. We're back with you right after this.
Good morning to you there.
Okay, up and at 'em.
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Back with you on Mornings. Thanks for being with us. Show's presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. This hour of Mornings and every day, the 7 o'clock hour, is presented by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you're not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services, plus a custom plan that fits you. Give them a call today, 601-206-7966, or go to mwgemployerservices.com. Welcome in our first guest this morning, Commissioner of the Department of Public Safety, Sean Tindall. He joins us in studio. You know, when you hit a milestone in life, you have this these two disparate thoughts. One, it feels like it happened in the blink of an eye, and two, it feels like this has been forever. I'm wondering, Mr. Commissioner, if you find yourself in that spot. 6 years as Commissioner of DPS. Is it a combination of those two feelings?
Absolutely. And when I first took the job, I remember meeting with Governor Reeves, and I'd been there about 2-3 months, and he said it's the kind of place where the days are long and the months are short, and that's what it feels like. You know, it flies by, but you have long days, but you turn around, it's like, oh my gosh, it's been a month, it's been 2, it's been 6 years. So it has been quite a journey, and something that I've look back on with a great deal of fondness, trying to do the things that we've done and being a part of really one of the most storied agencies in state government in the state of Mississippi, founded in 1938. It is quite a place.
Is this one of those jobs where leadership has a shelf life? Obviously, it's an appointed position, and you serve at the will and pleasure of the governor, but given the stress probably that goes along with being Commissioner of Public Safety, is there a finite amount of time that somebody can do this job and feel good about the way they're doing it on an ongoing basis?
I think so. I mean, you know, I've been in this position now 6 years. I'm the third longest serving commissioner in the agency's history. The average tenure of a commissioner of public safety is right at 3 years. So it is a job that requires a lot. And I think when you look at how long most commissioners stay, it's short because of the stress. You don't see like you do in some places, bureaucrats that stay for 15, 20, 30 years. in power. There's a lot going on, and commissioners come and go, and I knew that coming in, so we felt like we had to make a great impact and try to move things forward, and so that's what we did when we got there. I was reading a great analysis from all the debacle that we saw over the weekend with CBS, and the manager said that if he had hired an insider to run 60 Minutes, then nothing would have changed. The insiders would continue to do what they do, and I knew coming from the outside that the governor wanted me to be a voice for change at the agency, and that's what we tried to accomplish.
What's the longest tenure for a commissioner?
The first, Colonel Birdsong. He came on in 1938 and actually had 3 different stints as commissioner and served for about a total of 17 years.
Wow.
So if you take him out of the equation, it's probably about a 2-year average.
You got 17 years in you?
No.
When you look back over the last 6 years, and obviously expect to have a couple of years remaining at least in your tenure, what are you most proud of?
You know, that's a big question. There were so many things when we got there that we needed to tackle. I think about the families that were left with unanswered questions with autopsy reports. I mean, in 2020, we had autopsy reports that had not been completed going all the way back to 2010. The fact that we got the entirety of that backlog turned around, and that Dr. Stacy Turner at the medical examiner's office and our team did a great job of not only getting rid of that backlog, but now making sure that we run about 90 days on getting autopsy reports turned around. I think that is tremendous because it brings justice to the families that have been victims of crimes. It holds criminals accountable, and it provides answers. And so that's critically important. I think about driver services. How much time people were spending waiting at a driver service station. Average wait time was 3 hours, and now we're down to about 15 minutes. That's tremendous. Saves Mississippians a lot of time. They don't have to take off the entire day of work to go to a driver service station and get their credentials renewed. And then I think what I'm most proud of, though, is I've tried my best, and I met with the sheriffs yesterday to be an advocate for law enforcement, to support first responders in our state. I've managed to go to the legislature and fight for and ask for increase in death benefits. We've had record salary increases for our troopers. It's still not enough, trying to get those salaries up. And so, and really just trying to bring some different thoughts and mindsets to law enforcement, and trying to support them every way I could.
With a teenage driver now, I've had a couple of recent experiences with driver services. I'm curious if there was some sort of directive at some point along the way, like, hey, let's be nice. Let's be nice to the people. In addition to the fact of we want to get them in and out as quickly as possible, it feels like that was a place where people were generally grumpy. And I didn't get that impression the last couple of times that I was there. Yeah,
and look, the environment was hostile. I mean, it was 3-hour waits. The customers were frustrated. The employees were frustrated. And I'll say one of the directions the legislature went was we knew we needed more state troopers on our roads. Since 1938, they had also been tied into the Driver Services Bureau. So the legislature said, we want the troopers on the road, and we want Driver Service Bureau to operate independently of the Highway Patrol. And in doing that, it gave all the employees there a pathway to move up in promotions and have a future there. And then we also were able to systematically come in working with the Highway Patrol in the beginning and say, hey, what can we do to fix the administrative processes at driver services so we can get people in and out. And that resulted in the appointment system. It resulted in an expansion of mobile ID, more services online. And what we have found is, and then we also put a focus on customer service. We want you to smile. We do training, just like you would if you owned a Wendy's or a fast food restaurant. You kind of focus on those types of things if you want your restaurant to be successful. And so we brought those business principles in our training. And the result is, I think, when people come in, the employees are in a better mood because the customers aren't mad. And we're putting a smile on our face and try to have that can-do attitude.
You mentioned the state medical examiner's office a second ago. Previously, there was just one, right? There was just the one in Jackson? Or is that not right?
No, that's right. We had one in Pearl, or in Jackson and Pearl. And then they opened one on the coast, I think, in about 2012. We didn't have a doctor there until about 2019. 2019. And so now we have that one. I'm proud of that we're opening one in Oxford. So we're about to bring a medical examiner's office on in Oxford. So we'll have 3 in the state, 1 in North Mississippi, Central Mississippi, and South Mississippi. And that's a great asset for the law enforcement and the people of North Mississippi, so that when there is a murder or a homicide, they're not having to bring that body, that victim, all the way down to Jackson for that autopsy. They'll be able to do it there in Oxford, then they'll be able to get it back to the funeral home so that the family can start that closure process.
So the biggest result of that is just timeliness?
Absolutely. And on investigations, also these doctors have to testify in the criminal trials. And so if they're having to come all the way from Jackson to go up to Itawamba or DeSoto County, that's taking them out of the lab. They're spending 3 to 4 hours on the road, getting there, 3 to 4 hours getting back. That's autopsies that aren't getting completed when they're gone. Now, with a central location in Oxford, that's less time that they're out on the road when they have to go testify.
You just finished graduation, if I'm not mistaken, for the most recent trooper school class, right?
We actually graduate tomorrow, class 70. I think we have 54 or 53 cadets that are graduating tomorrow, so really proud of that. Every year we've been there. That's another thing that I'm very proud of. We have had a trooper school graduate every year of Governor Reeves' administration. That hasn't happened since the 90s when Governor Fordyce was in office. And so we're really proud that we're able to do that, and our plan is to keep doing that through his administration.
You've talked to me a little bit about some of the requirements for trooper school. Navy SEALs has an incredibly high fallout rate for people that go through BUD/S. They tap out. They say, this isn't for me. Isn't that the case with trooper school also? Maybe not at the same percentage or the same level, but a lot of people realize as they're going through that, hey, this isn't for me for one reason or another.
That's right. And we started off with about 700 applicants that applied to go to trooper school. It was narrowed down through our process of meetings and background checks and polygraph exams, ultimately, and testing all the way down to starting with about 90, and now we're down to 54. So about 40% to 50% dropout. Sometimes it's more than that. And so what we've tried to do in trooper school is, one, to keep that physical standard up there that is expected, the training in that area, but also we've tried to expand our academics, more con law, more specific things when it comes to report writing. And so we've tried to make it a little more of a educational experience as well at trooper school.
Sean Tyndall is my guest, Commissioner of the Mississippi Department of Public Safety. Just last week, I think it was, a major public safety summit happened in Jackson. We'll talk with the Commissioner about that, who was there, what they accomplished, and what that might look like going forward. We'll continue after this. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. Sean Tyndall is my guest.
From the seat.
Wake up! Rise and shine!
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross.
Nice early morning surprise.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Back with you, mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. Commissioner Sean Tyndall is my guest. He runs the Mississippi Department of Public Safety. And I mentioned before the break that last week there was a public safety summit that happened in the Jackson metro area. Flowood, I think, at the Sheraton, right?
That's right. That's right. Fourth annual summit that we've hosted with the Attorney General's office. It was something coming into DPS. I went and I would go to the sheriff's conference. I'd go to the police chief's conference. We'd go visit with the constables. We'd go visit with the DAs at their conference. But there was never an event that tried to bring all the first responders together at one public safety summit to hear from leaders and different speakers. And so the general and I were talking about it, and hey, why don't we pull this event together and try to get all the public safety officials in our state into one room in a little bit of a different training aspect. When you go to the sheriff's conference, the chief's conference, they're getting update from legislators on new laws. They're getting their hours in for their training. And we really wanted to focus on things that impact first responders directly, whether it be, hey, how can you be a better leader in your organization? Hey, let's talk about mental health in your organizations. Let's talk about trends across the country when it comes to situations with active shooters and how better to respond. So in the process, we've brought in Navy SEALs, we've brought in world-renowned speakers. We had a guy this year that's a former firefighter, former police officer, former Marine, that was also suicidal at one point, and really had a touching message to the first responders about how to deal with mental health and make sure that they keep they're not just their physical self in good shape, but their minds in good shape. So it really, hopefully, informative and stuff that these leaders can bring back to their departments. And we've made an emphasis not just to send our leaders, but also to bring some of our frontline troopers in and let them hear some of this, so that they can also think about their future and how to be better leaders as they go through their careers.
Law enforcement from across the spectrum, right? I mean, the groups that you mentioned locally, but also some national people coming in either as speakers or panelists?
That's right. The FBI normally hosts some of the speaking engagements. So, we have our federal partners there, state law enforcement, local law enforcement. We even have EMTs there. I mean, it's quite a broad spectrum of the first responder community that shows up.
We are, in Mississippi, a more conservative state than most. Some of our neighbors are like that as well. And I think that, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think generally speaking, that leads to more support for the law enforcement community here than maybe we see in other parts of the country. Do you feel that from your position? And maybe more importantly, do you think that local police officers, sheriff's deputies, first responders across the state feel the support from the general population in Mississippi as opposed to in some other places?
I think for the most part, certainly for the people. And I go back to 2020 when I came in, we were having protests across the country against law enforcement, and we had some here in Mississippi. But one of the things that you didn't see were any of the protests that got out of control, where people were breaking into buildings, burning them down, and so I think that is indicative of the work that our law enforcement officers do on a day in and day out basis in Mississippi, as well as the community support for their law enforcement. And so when those things happened, we had those protests. I actually saw law enforcement bringing water to the protesters, and I thought, how great is it that we live in a state where our law enforcement can protect their communities during those types of protests, but also stand there and protect the First Amendment rights of those protesters that are actually protesting law enforcement. And so that was really an eye-opening and proud moment for me to see the way our law enforcement interacted in those situations. And I think it's indicative of the quality of law enforcement officers we have and our community support for them. Now, that being said, we obviously have some issues, and one of the things that I'm also working on, and we have the Board of Law Enforcement Officer Standards and Training that is housed at the Department of Public Safety, and that board has been very proactive in making sure that if we have law enforcement officers that aren't doing what they're supposed to, that their certificates are getting revoked, and the worst thing for a good law enforcement officer is a bad one, and so we're trying to make sure that we get rid of those that are not doing the job the way they're supposed to.
Sean Tyndall is my guest. He is the Commissioner of the Department of Public Safety. Just celebrated or is celebrating this week 6 years in that office. I asked you earlier about accomplishments that you're pleased with or you're proud of. I think in every leadership position, if you look back, there are probably some things that you would like a do-over on, or maybe you would handle a situation differently. Is there anything that stands out that you've learned in the last 6 years that would inform how you make a decision or how you handle a situation going forward, as opposed to how you handled it in real time?
I think there are. Certainly running into a situation like this where all of a sudden you have 1,500 employees, I'm probably, I need to do things better, making sure that those around me get the accolades and pats on the back and things of that. I'm probably not always the quickest to do that, but again, I'm the son of a Vietnam veteran, and My grandparents were both World War II veterans, and my stepdad was as well. And so, there just wasn't a lot of hugs in our house. And so I'm probably not the best sometimes at letting those around me know how much I appreciate them. And so I've tried to get better at that. One of the things that I've learned is the importance of, if you have a vision for something, working with those early on that it will impact and getting their buy-in, and it'll help you get that across the finish line if you're able to work with those that it impacts the most early instead of just throwing it on them. And so I've tried to do better in communicating my vision on things ahead of time so that we don't run into as many roadblocks. And I find that when we do that and we start getting that buy-in and we can collectively work on ideas together, that the end product is usually better than just one person trying to make the decision.
Last time we visited, the new smell was still on the new building. Like that, you had the new car smell and the new headquarters. A couple of months in terms of being settled, and one of the things that you talked to us about was how much more efficient that should make the agency. What have you seen so far?
That new smell's still there, number one, and it's beautiful, especially after being in the building we were in for so long. It was in really, really, really bad shape. But no, that's still there. July 1st, the consolidation plan that we had, that the legislature passed, where we have 11 divisions now. It'll be brought down to 4 units. We'll have a uniform division in which our Highway Patrol, Capitol Police, and CTED will operate. All of them will keep their identities, but when it comes to buying guns, when it comes to buying cars, we'll be able to do it on a bulk basis. When it comes to buying software, when it comes to sharing intelligence, we'll be able to do that better. Same thing over at MBI. MBN, MBI, Homeland Security, and the Forensics Lab will start operating underneath one unit, and they'll each have their separate functions, but again, sharing intelligence, sharing information. We found where MBI was spending $50,000 on a software, then MBN was also spending $50,000 on the same software, and if we just bought it once, it would have been effective for all those divisions. So hopefully we'll see that cost savings that we can push to the front line. But also, and most importantly for Mississippi, it makes a safer Mississippi, because now our intel analysts are going to be working together. MBN is going to be sharing information with MBI that wasn't getting shared before. And that's really where the consolidation it comes in. And it also will save on some of those administrative costs. And look, I'm a conservative by nature. I think we need to not only consolidate at my agency, I think across the state we could use some consolidation, whether we're talking about school districts, whether we're talking about municipalities. I mean, my gosh, I was able to travel and go to 82 counties in 82 days, and I was just shocked at the number of layers of government that we have throughout Mississippi.
You mentioned purchasing guns. Is there a standard firearm issue across all law enforcement?
No, there are obviously some very popular ones. Mississippi, you see a lot of departments with SIGs. You see most with Glocks. And so there's not a standard. It's up to each department to decide. I actually met with a sheriff that's still carrying his revolver, so I was really impressed by that. Yes.
How about that? 9 millimeters?
9 millimeters is a very popular round. Now, the sheriff had his revolver, and it was clearly a 44 mag, so nobody was going to mess with him.
It's the long arm of the law right there.
8-inch barrel. Let's go.
Last thing for you. You got a minute left. In terms of vision over the next year or two, what is left that is at the top of your priority list?
This consolidation effort's a very big thing, trying to get all that done. And so I want to leave it in a good place to where those divisions are operating well, and that there's no real problems for whoever comes after me. But probably the most important thing, and biggest regret I have is last year I was not successful in lobbying the legislature for a pay increase for our state troopers. We are the lowest paid in the country, I believe. And so I will go back and fight for that again and again and again, trying to get that salary up to a better number for them. And I think that needs to be law enforcement across the board. I've visited a lot of these cities. Cleveland, Mississippi is always my example. Starting salary there is $61,000. They have 47 full-time law enforcement officers in a town of about 12,000. And when I visited, they hadn't had a homicide in 18 months. Wow. So when we talk about our community supporting law enforcement, that's one thing. But we also need to make sure they're getting paid a livable wage that allows them to do the job to make our community safe.
Makes it a little more attractive for people coming into that profession as well. That's so incredibly important. Commissioner, thank you for your time this morning. Congratulations on 6 years and continued success.
Thank you. Always enjoy being here.
Thank you. Commissioner Sean Tyndall with the Mississippi Department of Public Safety. We're back with you after this.
Good morning from the Mississippi.
Super Talk Mississippi.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Here we go. Now back to Mornings with Richard Cross.
Now that's entertainment.
My thanks once again to the Commissioner of the Department of Public Safety, Sean Tyndall, for joining us earlier this week. Good conversation with him, and congratulations on 6 years as the head of the agency. It's time for your Mississippi Lottery Update, brought to you by, you guessed it, the Mississippi Lottery, online at mslottery.com, mslottery.com. Be sure to download the official Mississippi Lottery app. Powerball, you've got a new jackpot drawing coming on Saturday night, $212 million with an estimated cash value of just shy of $95 million. That's coming up on Friday night. Tonight, Mega Millions, and this is getting big, $368 million in the jackpot. That's for the drawing that's happening tonight. Estimated cash value, $163,600,000. 1636. Pretty good stuff. That is your Mississippi Lottery Update, online at mslottery.com. Time for us to take a look at your morning sports update. We'll do that in just a moment. Your morning sports update brought to you by Pearl River Resort. But first, I remind you about the C Spire text line Monday through Thursday mornings. That's the best way for you to get in touch with me, to get in touch with Lance. Love to hear from you. 601-879-4395. The one plan from C Spire is here. Fiber home internet and wireless, only $99 a month for new and current C Spire customers. One plan, one price, one experience, zero compromise. You can save over $700 a year with 3 phone lines from C Spire compared to AT&T. Plus, with a 5-year price lock, you pay one rate with no surprises guaranteed. So don't wait. Get the one plan today. Visit your local C Spire store or shop online now at cspire.com/oneplan. Talked about it earlier in the very beginning of the show. Super Regionals begin this morning, really. 11 o'clock Central Time from Morgantown, West Virginia. It is West Virginia and Cal Poly. Game 2 of that series is also at 11 o'clock tomorrow. Both of those games are on ESPN2. At 2 o'clock this afternoon on ESPN2, you have Game 1 between North Carolina and the USC Trojans, Southern Cal. 2 o'clock this afternoon, ESPN2. 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon on ESPN. 4 o'clock first pitch from Troy, Alabama. The Troy Super Regional to today's games at 4 between Troy and Little Rock, a pair of Trojans. The Troy Trojans and the Little Rock Trojans, kind of an unlikely pairing, but that's what you've got in the Troy Super Regional. And then finally tonight, 7 o'clock, ESPN2, first pitch, Ole Miss and Auburn. It is time to get past all of the storylines, the ticketing and the temporary seating and the hotel situation and all of the stuff that was making the rounds online yesterday. Shove all that in the rearview mirror because it's time for baseball. Ole Miss and Auburn, 7 o'clock tonight. You want to listen to the broadcast, you can do so on the Ole Miss Sports Network from Learfield, 6:30 airtime with David Kellum and Brad Henderson on many of these SuperTalk Mississippi stations. So those are the 4 series that get started tomorrow. They run Friday, Saturday, Sunday if necessary. That's the left side of the bracket, and all of those winners will meet in a 4-team double elimination tournament in Omaha, the 4 winners from those. Other side of the bracket, same setup, double elimination. Once you get to Omaha, then the winners of each bracket will pair off in a best 2 out of 3 series. So these are the Saturday, Sunday, Monday, if necessary. Athens, Georgia, Mississippi State and Georgia, 10 o'clock Central Time tomorrow on ESPN. On Sunday, 11 o'clock Central Time on ESPN as well. Monday, time to be determined if necessary. What else in the afternoon? You got Kansas and Oklahoma on Saturday afternoon, 5 o'clock first pitch there. Alabama and St. John's, the late game, Saturday night, 8 p.m. first pitch. And at 7 p.m. on ESPN, Texas and Oregon in the Austin Super Regional. Again, those are all Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. The Carolina Hurricanes even the series with the Vegas Golden Knights with a 4-3 overtime win last night. The teams have split the first two and now will head back to Vegas for Game 3. The NBA Finals roll on tonight, 7:30 tip-off, despite trailing by 13 in the third quarter on Wednesday night. The Knicks rallied for a 10-point win. Game 3, Monday night at the Garden in New York City. Cheapest ticket to get into that game now, over $7,000. And oh, by the way, the President of the United States is going to be there. 7 o'clock hour on the way. Lars Larson will join me. Delbert Hoseman will join me in the 8 o'clock hour. Dr. Leo Macelloni, an Ole Miss geology professor, and Ryan Miller from Oxford Lafayette Inc. All of that on the way. Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank. Online at communitybank.net. Community Bank, rooted in our community.
Your was previously recorded.
It's time to switch on.
Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
Yeah!
Back with you. It is Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and Supertalk TV. I'm happy to be joined now by Lars Larson, host of the Lars Larson Show. You can hear Lars' show on Super Talk Mississippi weeknights at 6 o'clock. Lars, always good to see you. How are you, my friend?
Nice to see you as well, Richard. Things are going very, very well. Lance got me some good get-back music and he's asking me about the temperature. We've actually got some Mississippi temperatures going up in the Northwest for a change, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, summertime has arrived. We got the heat and we got the humidity setting in to go along with some thunderstorms, but 'tis the season. So let's jump in and talk, if we can, for a minute about what's going on in Iran. It's the ceasefire that's not really a ceasefire, and yesterday felt like a day where maybe the negotiations and kind of the talks about permanent peace really took a step back, really backing up. You've got this report from Axios about a very heated and explicit conversation between the president and Bibi Netanyahu. And frankly, I don't know that Trump was off base. President Trump was off base with his message of like, you've got to stop. You're crazy. You're getting in the way of us getting a deal done.
Yeah, and he's right, because Netanyahu making strikes against Lebanon is just getting in the way of getting a deal done. Now, I will say up front that any deal we make with the Iranians, I don't trust the Iranians. I mean, there are a lot of other countries that are not very trustworthy, including Russia and China and North Korea and others. But I think on the planet, I think the least trustworthy country on the planet has to be Iran. So get a deal, but trust, but verify, and make the deal something we can check on and make the Iranians understand that once there is a deal, they will be held to the deal. And if they deviate from it, there will be consequences, and make it clear that the consequences are not going to be insignificant. They're going to be significant.
Are we about to have another significant strike on the country of Iran if they keep backpedaling and kind of backing off and taking shots at, drones and allies that we've got in the region?
I think you're right, Richard, because here's what's happened over the last 50 years. Every American president has said, We can't let the Iranians have nuclear weapons. But no American president until Trump has been willing to actually act to make sure it happens. Now, Obama, liberals are telling me constantly, Obama had the JCPOA, which did exactly nothing except say you can't have nuclear weapons till Obama is out of office. I mean, you put it off 10 years, then it's somebody else's problem. That didn't solve the problem. Nor did Joe Biden deal with the problem by saying to the Iranians, Donald Trump has squeezed you down to the last 10 cents in your checking account nationally, and I'm going to then refill all your coffers, which only emboldened them more. And I think the Iranians have become accustomed to a series of leaders who tell them you're going to do this, and then none of them is willing to actually enforce you're going to do this until Trump. And I think they're testing Trump to see how much can we get away with. And they're finding out it ain't much.
There have been a number of international pacts that have gone into place through the years. The Abraham Accords, in terms of international pacts, I think are pretty significant. This idea that President Trump wants more of the countries within the Gulf states to sign the Abraham Accords, what is the significance of that?
I think the significance is this. Once you start doing business with other countries, I mean, we've had a bunch of countries in the Middle East who literally would say, we won't do business with you because you're Jews. We won't do business with you because we have these other differences. Once you get these various countries to start cooperating with each other, it's an awful lot harder to go to war with people that you're actually having some kind of interaction with economically, which also means that people are going to go back and forth between those countries in a way that they don't now. I mean, think about the fact that there are countries in the Middle East that still are places where certain airlines are not allowed to land there because, well, they'll have Jews on board the plane and we can't have that. You get people to get past that and say, well, you know, we could actually do business with these other countries. Get that going, and the Middle East becomes a lot more stable an environment, doesn't it?
Certainly would think so. It feels like getting other countries on board would make sense. I'm curious. There's a, well, I'll just say who it is. Bruce Pearl, the former basketball coach at Auburn, who has been very. He's certainly pro-Jewish, but he's very pro-American. He's been pro-President Trump as well. Had a conversation with him a couple of years ago. It was at a basketball shoot-around for a game that I was doing that he was coaching. I said, can I ask you something not related to basketball? He said, sure. I said, help me understand what's going on in Israel and what, and I mean, it was like he lit up and it was like wind him up and let him go. But one of the things that I took away from that was he said, the Arabs are a beautiful people. And when we're not, you don't have Jews and Arabs that are just launching and fighting with each other all the time. He said there's a very livable, workable relationship there. But you've had the terrorist cells and the extreme pieces of Islam that have bastardized that so much that it's made it impossible. Is there a scenario, or is there just too much history for it ever to work?
No, I think there very much is a possibility of this. And let me give you my best piece of evidence of that. In Israel, you've got about 11 million people. I may be a hair off on the numbers, but it's real close. And in there are about 2 million Arabs who live as Israeli citizens. And I get skepticism from people. I've been there 5 times. I've met with people who are Palestinians. I've met with Arabs who are members of their Congress, their Knesset. And you say, hold on, there are Arabs who live in that country? Yeah. And when the Pew Research people go over there and ask those Arabs, would you like to live in any other Arab country in the Middle East? And they say, no, I like living here. Now, how is it that you have 2 million people who have full citizenship? They have the ability to serve in the Congress, the Knesset. You have the ability to vote, to run businesses, to own property and everything else. Now, you've got places in the Middle East where I couldn't go as a Christian. I'm a Protestant Christian. I couldn't wear a cross around my neck. I couldn't carry a Bible with me. That is forbidden. And all of my behavior is constrained to Islamic law. But in Israel, Arabs are allowed to own a home, do a job, do all this. And there are people who work side by side in that country. Tell me how it is you can have 2 million people living in a country of 11 million, and they are very much the minority, and yet they have full rights in that country. And you know what I think of? I think of if I went back in Mississippi, no disrespect, I love the state. I brag on your education program all the time. But if I went back, say, to 1940, do you suppose there are people who said to me, there will never be black people living in my neighborhood, and I will never live in a neighborhood full of black people? That will not happen. And I will not go to the lumber yard owned by the black man. I will not hire a black man. I will not sit at a lunch counter with a black man. They were dead set against it. Yet today it's like, no big deal. We get along fine. And it took a few decades for us to get to that point. Now, is that a worthy metaphor for that? To say, I know that in the 40s or maybe even the 50s, people in Mississippi, Louisiana would have said that ain't never going to happen. And there will never be a black man in the White House, right? That's what they would have told me, wouldn't they?
That you're absolutely right. And I've made the argument that racism without question exists everywhere. And I would put race relations as they exist today in Mississippi up against any state in the United States of America. We live together, we work together, we worship together, we go to school together, we play ball fields together. It's just how we live.
Yep.
As just
and you would have been told that was
like each other.
Impossible 3/4 of a century ago, maybe even half a century ago. They would have said that is never going to happen. So when you look at the Middle East and you say you've got a country where 2 million Arabs live in peace in a country with full rights to do everything that any other Israeli could do. They just happen to be either Arab Muslim Israelis or Arab Christian Israelis, and they have full rights to be there. Now, I'll tell you something else, Richard, people may not know. You're probably a Protestant Christian like me, right?
I am.
You could not emigrate to Israel. You can go visit all you want, but you can't emigrate there. I can't emigrate there. I don't aspire to emigrate there, but I can't, because only Jews can immigrate there. But the Arabs that already live there are allowed to stay. They are effectively grandfathered in. And there is no effort to say, let's push them out. Now, compare that to Egypt. Egypt used to be about 90% Coptic Christian. You know what they are now? About 5% Coptic Christian. You know what happened to the Christians? They're gone. And there are tiny minorities, gone one way or another, but there are tiny minorities in Iran. Iran has some, all Zoroasters, whirling dervishes. They've got a few Jews. They've got a few this, that, the other thing. But they live in dimitude. They live as second-class citizens in Iran to the extent that they're allowed to live there at all. And so the Muslim countries kick you out. The Jews say, you're here, you're a full citizen.
The irony of so many Protestant Christians wanting to visit Israel because it is the Holy Land, but can't actually live there if they want to do so. There is something delicious about that. Lars, our time's too short today. I always appreciate the visit. You make me think. Good visiting with you. We'll catch up soon.
Always my pleasure, Richard. Take care.
Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi. Back with you to
From the Venable Globe.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
People want to hear the truth, man. That's what we're going to do.
Super Talk Mississippi.
Well, it's all right. As long as you got somewhere to lay. Well, it's all right. Every day is Judgment Day.
pleasure being with you. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and Supertalk TV. The show is presented by Community Bank. I am happy to be joined this morning by the Lieutenant Governor of the great state of Mississippi, Delbert Hosemann. He is in studio. I am not. I am still in College Station for a little while longer. I'm coming home today.
Well, we're excited. That's why they paid the Traveling Wilburys for you. One of the great albums ever was what he kicked off. Lance is over there smiling. He knows I recognize it.
I like that. You spent some time at the ballpark this weekend, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Ballparks?
I went to University of Southern Mississippi's game, and we were way ahead, and looked like we were just cruising through the ninth inning, and then we lost right in the ninth inning the first time. Then we lost in overtime to Virginia, so we're out of the tournament, which is very disappointing. They had a really good team, and it just seems like we we get there and it just doesn't work out. It did for Mississippi State and Ole Miss, both of them. I stayed up late watching them, went to the Mississippi State game. Also very interesting, and they just played well. Our teams are playing well. It's a good time.
I wonder how many people other than you attended games in person in Hattiesburg and in Starkville this weekend.
I don't know, but they missed something. Most of the time when I go up, I go out in the left field, and I have a bunch of new friends out there, and they have all kinds of grill and barbecued, and they're just in good humor, and there may be a cold drink or so out there, and I kind of fit right in, actually.
We've talked about this before. Baseball is such a big deal. There's the economic impact that exists.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, Southern Miss being out, Mississippi State and Ole Miss winning their regionals, but both are going to be on the road.
That's
so
right.
we do miss out on the super regional tax dollars that would be in the state this weekend. Yeah. But good stuff with the Hattiesburg Regional and the Starkville Regional.
I think so. We've got 2 chances to get up there, and I'm really hopeful. I listened to a little bit of your game when I wasn't watching Auburn because I directly affected Ole Miss. So I listened to a little bit of your game. Disappointed Texas A&M got beat. So we lost Kentucky, Texas A&M, and Florida in the SEC yesterday.
Yeah. SC was a good baseball team. They're playing their best at the right time of the year. Do you get to say we for all 3 schools?
I hope so. I go to all of them. As you know, my undergraduate was at the University of Notre Dame, so I have the ability to go to all schools, and I've kind of adopted them all. And I just like the sports part. And I'll tell you, really, when I go out in the left field lounge like you were talking about, I visit with all those people, and they'll tell me what I'm doing right or wrong and what we need to be doing. I mean, they've had a couple of beers, and they're very willing to discuss with you what they think we ought to be doing. And I learn a lot. I really do. I enjoyed it, and I learned a lot. The atmosphere is phenomenal up there, as you know. And people are just really interested. Same thing down the right field line at Southern. When you go over there, they've got their trucks backed up in there, and they'll tell you what they think ought to be done. And
is there a consistent message that you're getting from those people right now?
You know, it's funny. Most of the comments that I'm receiving is the state is doing really well, which means they're paying attention because the state is doing really well. Our economics are good. We're $184 million over budget this year on receipts on over budget, and that's going well. Our economy is going well. Huge capital investments. Our education system is improving. We're putting $2 billion a year into infrastructure, so it is going well. Most everybody that wants a job can get one in Mississippi.
Yeah. So fiscal year ends June 30, right?
Right.
So with just a month remaining, pacing ahead on receipts, that's good news?
It is. We'll break even this month, it looks like, just right down almost to the dollar. And then we should finish the year somewhere between $180 and $200 million above what we budgeted. We actually cut the budget last year. You wouldn't remember that, but we actually decreased the actual budget we were going to have this year. And we've been downsizing state government. The number of employees is down. And so we're working on, working within our means so that we'll have funds left over. And that, of course, goes directly into continuing to cut income tax every year.
There is obviously a formula and experience that matters in terms of coming up with the budget, projecting what tax receipts are going to be and what your expenditures can be. Right. I know, like, when people file a tax return, they say, you don't want a big check from the government back because that means you gave them too much money on the front end.
That's right.
How razor thin is that edge in terms of projecting what you're going to make in tax receipts and being conservative versus aggressive there?
We've been pretty successful with that. A group, state economists and a group get together and do a projection. Then it comes to the Legislative Budget Committee, which I'm the chairman of this year. Then we analyzed that budget and we changed it. We decreased the amount of money that we thought we were going to get from corporations. And we were right. The corporate returns are less. Our individual income tax is higher. But we really will end up, if we're in the $180 million range, you got to remember that we're about a $7.5 billion budget. So we're hitting within 1 or 2% of what we should be. And when you're projecting out with all the things that can go wrong, from hurricanes to economic collapse to war, all the other things that go on in a year's time, we're usually hitting 98, 99% accuracy. So I'm real pleased with the process. And We have a committee that does that, and they've already started. Our first meetings will be here in September for the next year after this. And so we're getting pretty close, I think, and I'm proud of the fact that we're able to budget. Not only are we able to budget, Richard, as you know, during the time I'm here, we're going to pay off $1.4 billion of the state's debt. Now, not many people know that, but we're paying off $300 million a year in state's debt, and they're not refinancing, which the Democrats did forever. And they left us with a huge amount of debt. During my term, I'll pay off, or we will, about 35% of the state's debt. So when we leave at the end of next year, the state will have $1.4 billion less debt than when we started. It'll owe about $2.9 billion. We're on a path, if they continue it, like I've said it up here, to be close to a debt-free state in 2039. There is no other debt-free state. In fact, there's no other state that has cut taxes, fixed its retirement plan, had education go from 49th to 16th, paid off its debt. There is no other state. Mississippi's the only one. And for those of you going to work today, I want you to think about that, about where our state is today. I mean, there is no other state that can say that they're doing what we're doing, and then you include $70 billion worth of investment. There's no other state in the country that's been paying off its debt, fixed its retirement plan. Most of these states' retirement plan is breaking them, just like it is the national government. If you read the Wall Street Journal, Social Security goes out of existence in 2032. It's not funded anymore. We're exactly the opposite. We fixed our retirement plan, and over the next 20 or 25 years, we'll be able to cut back contributions from cities by 19.9%. So
you and the speaker and the governor have all been very pro economic development. There have been a lot of ribbon cuttings. There have been special sessions called to approve specific projects. The state's financial position, the health of the state's financial position, does that play a role in the attractiveness in your mind to the companies that are coming in?
And without question, we just got upgraded on our bond. I'm not borrowing any money, but we got upgraded. And then we got upgraded specifically because we have fixed our retirement plan, or at least a long-term plan to fix it. We've cut in taxes. We're on budget. I mean, they look at all of the things that we've got. Our income stream is up, and they say, well, you need a better bond rating. So when you have that, people look at you. I mean, the New York Times is writing articles on us and all that other kind of thing. But we have a very unique position in this country because, first of all, our people, if you come here, it's just a big neighborhood, and people are nice to you. I mean, we get along, and that's a real positive thing. You can see that people that come for football games or visitors that come to State or Ole Miss for these regionals and whatnot, they think we're the nicest people in the country because we are. The second thing, we've got water. Now we're going to have electricity. We're building 2 new plants. We're going to have electricity for companies to prosper here. We have a great intellectual system. We got research universities. We got the best climate. We got some of the world's most productive farmland. You can go down the line, and we're being run well right now. We're paying off our debt, cutting our taxes, educating our children, and building our roads. That's what
Is there anything from an investment standpoint that would be acceptable to you in terms of borrowing money?
I really don't think so, and I'll tell you why. We have a savings account. We have a rainy day fund that's about $700 to $800 million that we don't touch. Right. In addition to that, we have what's called a capital account. That's money in and above the rainy day fund. And that capital account has had hundreds of millions of dollars. Last year, it had almost $1 billion in it. So where I can go and finance...
How much of that was spent this year?
It depends on who you talk to and how much is done. I think we spent all but about $300 million of it this year.
Okay.
So we still got, and we'll have another 180 we put here, but I'd rather pay a little cash on the front end than borrow money. I've got 8 grandchildren. I want them to grow up where they're not paying for my investments.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a great position. I guess that was the question. Is there anything that it inhibits us from being able to do as a state by saying, no, we're going to continue to pay for things with cash?
There would be a time when we may borrow money, but I haven't had to because I've got the cash to put up, just like you do where you go buy a house instead of having to borrow money to make the deposit. we've got the cash here in the state.
.com.
Rise and shine with information and insight.
Check it out.
Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi.
Mornings with Richard Cross. Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann is my guest. Appreciate his time this morning. I want to jump into a couple of other topics that certainly, or well, at least one that's kind of headline news right now. The redistricting conversation. I think you and I have gotten into that a bit. It's a three-layered conversation with Supreme Court redistricting and legislative redistricting and also congressional redistricting. I'd like to start here, and this may sound blunt the way that I asked this. You put together a Senate Select Committee to study the redistricting issue. The House has done that as well. You put a Democrat on that committee, Derek Simmons. Why? I think there are a lot of people that are not only curious but concerned as to why you would appoint him to that committee.
On here we go. First of all, First of all, Richard, I want to win. I intend to win. So take a little bit of a look at this. Every member of those committees on the Joint Legislative Committee from last time, all of them are. Okay? Mm-hmm. And so they're going to be the ones that do the redistricting. So there's been no change in that. They were all appointed again. There are 2 Democrats on there. 2. On the House, there are 5 Democrats on their committee. I assume he wants to win too. When we go to redistrict Mississippi, we're going to end up probably getting sued. And the way to win being sued is we're going to follow the Gingles case. We have thrown out Kalis. Thank goodness that's gone. And for us, we're going to go back to where we have political performance, geographical compactness, communities of interest, county lines, city lines, all the things that it takes for us to win. When y'all hired me as Secretary of State, we got voter ID. We're the only state that didn't get sued. There's a way to do this. And the way to do this is to follow the constitutional law and at least have the visible view that we are inclusive in Mississippi. Otherwise, the first pleadings will be nobody had anything to do. There was no Democrats. For example, we have now removed from all of our calculations that we keep at the state anything about black voting age population, BVAP. Everything that I'm looking at right now, and my committee is looking at, is Democrat and Republican, which is allowed under the new law. And specifically under the Gingles case, we can have it where we have the process where it can be partisan.
Which is an interesting piece of this with regard to redistricting. You cannot draw district lines based on race. You can draw them based on partisanship.
Well, you can draw them on the matters which I told you, your political connections, your city, your counties, your economics, your geographic. You can draw them on that. And if that ends up being excessively political, that's acceptable under the new case. So The one thing we don't want to do is draw it on race. And so where you hear these guys out here saying, oh, we need to go draw it right now, we need to get rid of X congressman or something like that. No. All that's going to do is get us sued again. And I want to be real clear about this. I'm sick of the federal government drafting how I draft my legislature, my Supreme Court, and my congressional districts. This is the last time they're going to do that. We're going to do it right, and we're going to win again. Now, to do that, I have got to be very specific here. And you'll hear these people saying, oh, we can do it over the internet. We should do it right now. Let me ask you another question. I'm glad you brought this up. Let me ask you a question. How many times have you heard someone say that you would know that it's famous? I appreciate your attention to this matter in Mississippi. The president has not asked this. Now, I'm in touch with the White House as recently as yesterday. And so is all the other people down here. I'm sure the legislature, the House is, the governor is, surely. But nowhere in there have you seen the president of the United States. He's got his own Truth Social saying Mississippi needs to redistrict. Now, he said that other places, but he hasn't said that here. So think about it a little bit. We're following what the White House has asked us to do as part of this. And the other thing is, we're sick of the federal government dictating Mississippi's politics about our redistricting. And we're going to win. And we're going to follow this case all the way out. And we're going to redistrict ourselves, and it's going to stick. And we're going to win the case. So I would encourage people to think about the fact that we don't have the president asking us to do anything. So not only are we following the law, which is what we should be doing anyway, but in addition to that, we're following the wishes of the White House, and everybody else is not. He's got a pretty good track record, as you remember, about endorsing people.
So far, so good. At least in this election cycle. The governor mentioned a couple of weeks ago when he and I visited that, and I don't know if he said this specifically or this was kind of a reading between the lines, if we rush into this, and he said, I think we have a good legal standing to go through this redistricting process, but if we do it fast, after we've started primaries but before midterms, then we will potentially provide a legal blueprint for a state like Illinois to try to jump in and do the same thing. And if you're looking at it from a congressional standpoint, you might be looking at a net loss in seats for Republicans versus a net gain if Mississippi doesn't provide that legal pathway. Does that make sense?
First of all, it's right. If we were to do that and get sued, back to the federal court redistricting Mississippi, which I just got to telling you, we don't want to do that. So the governor's directly right about that. So we've already had our primaries, as has Illinois, and he brings that up because he's remember him talking, we need to look at this nationally. Now, personally, I'd like to redistrict in the morning. I don't think these congressmen that are going up there are constitutionally elected to go vote for me. But that is not available to us right now. Now, we're going to redistrict in January, or maybe earlier if he calls us in. And our committee is going to have hearings around the state, and we're going to do this right. We're going to take our time and do it right.
Should it happen earlier in a special session so that when qualifying begins at the beginning of January, everything is ready to go as opposed to having to do it in session?
Yeah, and that's my preference, quite frankly. I'm glad you brought that up, too. I want my committee to go out. We're going to have meetings around the state. We're going to take all our information in. We're going to do this work that I've told you. We've taken the actual analysis to reflect only who voted Democratically and Republically. So we're going to redistrict according to the Supreme Court case. And it takes us time to do all of that. And, of course, that includes the Supreme Court districts, the commissioners, transportation commissioners, public service, all of those things. So we've got some time it takes it to do that. I'd like to finish that in the October range or so, between now and October. I'll do it quicker if he calls me in, but that will give me time to have all of this talked, cussed, and discussed among my senators, and of course the House will be doing the same thing. So when we finish that, I would like for him to call us in about first week of December or something and let us go ahead and perform our redistricting at that time, so we can stay with the qualification deadlines that begin in January and end at the end of January. So I would hope that he'll call us in before we go into the session. I think it would be healthy for us to get that out of the way one way or the other, and we can focus on health care and housing and a whole bunch of other issues I'm working on.
Back to my original question, though, about Senator Simmons, and that you talked about you need a Democrat, and he was on the original committee, but he's also involved in a court case where he's suing the state of Mississippi based on districting lines, right?
No. He's suing Mississippi on the Supreme Court, not on the congressional redistricting.
But Supreme Court district lines,
That's correct. He sued on the Supreme Court redistricting lines. That is correct. And he lost.
So, and that's being appealed right now, or got kicked back down?
It did, and we're waiting till January 21st, and we'll have our solution, or whatever they're going to do about reordering us, coming from the 3-judge panel, 1 Fifth Circuit member and 2 judges. We'll have that back from us. But he also happens to be the head of the Democrats in the Senate. He's head of the Democratic Party in the Senate, and so I'm just telling you, I want to win. And you don't do that by excluding people on things like that, and particularly where you've had them appointed and all this other. We want to show a history of doing this right, and when we finish our redistricting, which can reflect partisanship, as I've already discussed with you, as well as these other issues about communities of interest, geographic cities and counties and whatnot. When we do that and we get sued, we're going to win, and we're going to redistrict Mississippi ourselves for the first time in decades. We had never done this. So just like we've never done voter ID, and they still can't get voter ID through the national level.
And so is your argument, not only did we include a Democrat, but we included the highest-ranking Democrat in the Senate, or is it just simply...
It's the highest-ranking Democrat in the Senate. He's the one elected to represent the other Democrats in the Senate, and he'll be on that committee, and we have 8 Republicans and 2 Democrats. And in the House, they have 5 Democrats, and I can't remember, about 10 Republicans, I think.
Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann was my guest. We've got a few minutes on the other side of the break. I would like for us, if we may, to talk a little bit about the IHL and performance-based funding. You and I have talked about that. It's something that is concerning to me, and I think it's an important issue for the state of Mississippi.
It is.
I'm not sure that IHL is putting as much emphasis on that as well. I'd like to get your perspective on that on the other side of this break. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm. and SuperTalk TV. We're back right after this.
From the Venable Glass.
Back to Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi and the SuperTalk app.
Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank. Got a little bit of spicy Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann a few minutes ago. I like that. Passionate.
Well, I'm just sick of the federal government ordering us to do stuff. And like I said, if we set this up correctly and don't use things like racism and those kinds of things, then I'm going to win. And the state of Mississippi is going to be able to redistrict itself as it should have been able to do. We're past all of that. And it'll be heavily Republican because we are Republican. So, well, I'm looking forward to doing that, and I think the public will be very pleased with the result.
Tell you what I'm a little sick of is the IHL not holding schools accountable for poor graduation rates and how they spend their money and student retention, and then pushing back against the idea that a performance-based formula where schools are rewarded and allocated dollars based on success is not acceptable. And then having a formula in place that would do that and not putting it in place and then going back and hiring again the company that helped them build that formula to build another formula to do the exact same thing a dozen years later.
I love it when you're on a rant. Look,
well, I mean, it doesn't make a lick of sense.
It doesn't. We are institutionalizing mediocrity in our institutions of higher learning, and we ought to just recognize it. This thing that came out here yesterday, which we spent over $200,000 on.
Forgive me for interrupting. I told Senator Boyd months ago, I said, we have created a socialistic system for higher education in Mississippi. It's a welfare state that is supported by Mississippi State and Ole Miss.
That's accurate. And what's happened here on performance, after we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars and just got this thing in a day or two ago, they have 1% of the budget on performance. Now, put this in perspective. Tennessee has 80% on performance. Louisiana has 30% on performance. And we have 1% on performance.
So
1% recommended.
To do that?
Right now, we don't have any. They recommended 1%. So they're going to allocate $1 million out of like $800 or $900 million on performance. I guess it's the old political thing. Let's try to make everybody happy. Well, they made me unhappy, and apparently you as well. We have and we need to realize this, Richard, and you're on to this. We have a decreasing number of children, 50 to 70,000 less children, okay? We have tightening of our budgets on economics. We have universities in this system that graduate 25% of the people that go there, okay? So what we've done is, for whatever reason, institutionalize mediocrity by funding ones that are not successful and not performing. Now, in your radio station or in all these businesses that people are driving to work on today, if they don't perform, they get laid off. So why the institutions of higher learning have not taken the steps to make meaningful decisions about where we're going with less number of people and less money, it's just stunning to me. Instead, we've come up with what I consider to be a useless report. Now, they're going to have to do that, or several things are going to happen. For example, if they're not doing that, I see no reason why the legislature, the House and the Senate, ought just allocate the money like we deem it appropriate. What I need to go to the IHL.
Would you give the schools their own boards in that scenario?
That's another thing. That will come up this year. I expect that will be a bill to have their own boards this year, because we can't control the fact that we're spending money where we're not succeeding. We're not succeeding in educating these students. And in fact, we're lying to them. We're having these kids go here for 4 years, spend money, get in debt and everything. And the federal government is even ahead of us. They're going to cut off the money under the big, beautiful bill. If you can't earn more money out of the degree you're having, they're going to stop funding the university. So instead of realizing all this is occurring, we come up with a less than a 1% deviation on performance. I mean, they ought to throw this away.
I don't believe that a consulting company working in this space, like Inchamps, and they're a reputable company, and they've been in this business for a while, that they would have just on their own come back and said, hey, this is the plan you should go with. So is that coming at the direction of the commissioner, at the chair of the board of the IHL? Who told them this is the formula we want you to bring back to us?
I don't know this, but they started with the thought that we got to keep everything going like it is. We got to keep all the same number of people at each university. We got to keep the same expenses for running the university and the buildings. So we fixed the cost of all of these. They made no determination that some of those universities aren't performing, and some of the credits that they're giving on, or some of the degrees that they're granting, are non-economic. So when you look at this, they just said, well, we're going to keep the status quo and we're going to allocate $1 million in here on performance. We ought to have 99% on performance and 0% on the status quo. So that's one of the issues that we'll have this year, along with we got to reorganize state government for the same exact reasons. I'm trying to find out a way to have homes for young people that are coming to work. We don't have affordable or attainable housing for people. So there are a lot of things on my list you'll see this year, and this particular one is one of them. I can't see us spending our money like that anymore.
Mr. Lieutenant Governor, thank you for your time.
Have a safe trip home, Richard.
I appreciate it. I'm ready to get back in the great state of Mississippi. Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann, my guest. Mornings with Richard Cross. Thanks for being with us. We've got more coming up with you right after this.
Your show was previously recorded.
Coffee, conversations, and clarity. What a great way to start your Mississippi day. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back. Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank. Glad to be with you. There was a report that came out about a week ago, and I have not ignored it, but we have intentionally not discussed it. It was the Mississippi Natural Resources Summit report. And the report centers around Mississippi as a potential stronghold for critical minerals development in the United States. And that's about as much as I know about this. And so what we wanted to do before we jumped into this was find an expert to come on and talk to us about what this report means and what it looks like going forward for the state of Mississippi. And so I'm pleased to welcome in my next guest this morning, Dr. Leonardo Macelloni. Forgive me if I butchered that name. I hope I got at least somewhere close.
He is a geologist at the University of Mississippi. He's director of the Mississippi Mineral Resources Institute and the Center for Marine Resources and Environmental Technology. He is a professor as well. Dr. Macelloni, good morning.
Good morning, and you have pronounced my name perfectly. Thank you very much.
Outstanding. So we're off to a good start. I really do appreciate your time this morning, and you'll have to forgive me if some of my questions are elementary in nature, but I think we need to lay a groundwork, at least first, for what we're talking about. There is a geological formation that kind of runs through the Sun Belt in the southeast. It's called the Smackover Formation. As I understand it, there is a lithium brine deposit that exists, and it kind of comes into Mississippi in the southern part of the Delta and then sweeps to the southeast down kind of through Wayne County. What is a Smackover Formation?
The Smackover Formation, as all the formation that is present in the Gulf Coast region, is a formation formed during in the geological past. We say the Mesozoic, when the Gulf of Mexico was opening and the sea was coming through, and we have like formation of marine sediment. In particular, this formation is like a carbonate formation, like it's made by carbonate, and is run all through the Gulf South, basically stretching from Texas, Arkansas, and down to Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida.
Okay. So that's
I don't know if it's clear in terms of for non-expert people. I try to be simple as possible.
No, and I want you to do that because I think that's a great starting point for us to understand where it exists. And Dr. Macelloni told us in advance, he said, hey, just in case you didn't realize I'm Italian and I have a thick Italian accent, so you may have to listen closely. But I think this information is really interesting. So the governor of Mississippi, Governor Tate Reeves, has kind of laid the groundwork for potential significant development going forward. Research and development trying to leverage Mississippi's ability to be part of this critical minerals conversation. What does that look like in your mind as a researcher and someone who is working in this critical mineral space?
It's a big action for us, and I had to praise the Mississippi Development Authority that was the pivotal instrument from the Mississippi government to basically put together this report, and most importantly put together experts all around Mississippi, because we also worked with the Office of Geology, the state of Mississippi, that are really important component of that. It's very important because, for example, in my case, I was studying this kind of aspect longer time ago, like we started 5-6 time ago, because in Arkansas, this kind of opportunity has been already exploited. And as a geology, I said, if Arkansas had this kind of opportunity, if the formation is enriched in brine or lithium, there is not geological reason that Mississippi has the same, because in geology, a formation is like a body that has the same property, more or less. Then we have to investigate better, but if the body is there and we have the same body, should be the same kind of situation, giving some kind of specific. And I was trying to present this several times to the Mississippi government, and finally, because the things change in the federal government, also in the political world political scenario, where critical mineral became much more important, like the situation with the different kind of war, like economical crisis. Suddenly, United States started to see, okay, maybe we need to find the critical mineral on our own rather than rely on foreigner like supply. and now we have a big momentum on that.
So China, in particular, is one of the biggest producers of critical minerals, and President Trump has pushed the envelope and said we need to be producing critical minerals in the United States, and Mississippi may have, or certainly, I guess, does have lithium, major lithium brine deposits. What kind of depth are we talking about? How deep below the surface of southern and southeast Mississippi are we talking about?
Several kilometers. Sorry, I use kilometer, not feet. I still didn't
I understand.
learn to use. Several kilometers depend.
How many kilometers?
Between 2 and 5, depend of where the formation is a change. The formation depth changes, so can be different depth, but several kilometers in the order.
And so your research is using AI tools to show what it looks like below the surface of the earth here in Mississippi. Is that right?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a little bit more complicated because
I'm sure it is.
We have a lot of data collected over the time, like geological well that we drill. In general, Mississippi is a big oil and gas producer, so we have a lot of well that has sampled the Mississippi subsurface. The Smackover Formation is also an oil and gas formation. So what we are trying to understand is the brine that is like a water salty solution that is in the pore of the formation that usually is a byproduct of oil and gas extraction, is something like a waste. We have to understand is where this brine is enriched in lithium and what is the best position in the state of Mississippi to basically develop a pilot facility that will do this kind of extraction and process. And in order to build a good model of the subsurface distribution of this brine in the formation, we now can use AI tool, because in the past we have only this data. So a human has to go and patiently see all the formation, the data, and try to make the model. Now with the AI, we can just give to the machine all this data, and through the very powerful elaboration that this system has, it can make a much more accurate model that in the past we cannot do because the limitation of human brain.
All right. Forgive me for doing this, but I'm going to make sure that I understood what you were saying, and our listeners do as well.
Absolutely.
Some samples and mining of this in the past, there is a brine substance there that's high in lithium. In the past, you've had to bring that out to be able to test it, but you've been able to put data into AI models that then shows more like what the subsurface looks like and gives you more accurate readings of what's actually below the surface. Is that a good summary?
The product we didn't do yet. We have to do this. We have not made this kind of operation. Yeah.
So that's what it looks like going forward. So are you actually drilling for the brine? That's what you're bringing up is the water through the well, and then you're able to extract the lithium from this brine solution?
Yes, the ultimate goal will be to develop like a well in the very best location in Mississippi and drill and extract this brine. This brine will go through a facility that will separate the lithium from the brine and start the process of lithium production. So that is the ultimate goal.
Do you have time to hang with me for a couple more minutes?
Oh, yeah, whatever, as long as you want.
Outstanding. We're going to take a commercial break. We're visiting with Dr. Leo Macelloni. He is a geologist at the University of Mississippi. He's also director of the Mississippi... Hold on, let me get it right.
from the Venable Glass.
You're waking up to what matters. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
With you this morning, Mornings with Richard Cross, continuing our conversation with Dr. Leo Macelloni, Director of the Mississippi Mineral Resources Institute and a geologist at the University of Mississippi. We are talking, at least, if not directly, at least around the report that came from the governor's office last week, talking about natural resources in Mississippi. There was a summit a week ago, or recently, exploring critical minerals in the state, and this is a project that the Mississippi Development Authority is behind. And so this is kind of a looking down the road project from MDA when we are talking about bringing economic development projects to the state of Mississippi. Dr. Macelloni is engaged in significant research of the Smackover Formation in South Mississippi, where there is a large lithium brine deposit. And we were talking about the extraction of that brine and the separation of the lithium for that, obviously a critical mineral that goes into batteries and lots of other things. How valuable is lithium to the manufacturing process, whether it be in Mississippi or in other states in the United States?
Very, because as you said, it goes in battery, not only, but we say battery is the most important things. And as you see, the world economy is transitioning to more electric energy use. So battery is going to be one of the most important components in the future. And we need lithium as a fundamental component of this of the battery. So it's going to be very important, plus all the other applications that we have.
The industry that seems to be getting the most headlines right now is the microchip industry. NVIDIA is now valued at as a $5 trillion company. Micron, which is a company based in Idaho, is growing, and they're building chips in the semiconductor space. Does lithium play a role in the microchip manufacturing process?
Definitely. It's widely used in the manufacturing of microchips as well.
Okay. So there's great value in being able to extract lithium. We have a couple of questions that come in on our text line, and I want to ask you this.
It's not only that there is a big value, it's also important that we will be independent. So if something happens in the world, we will not be anymore relying to a chain supply that is far away from us. So it's economical, but also it's important for the nation security.
National security.
Yes.
Wow. We got a question. Somebody says that in the extraction process, once you separate the lithium from the brine, what happens to the wastewater that is left over?
This is something that we are also working on, because basically the wastewater, there are very recent studies that have seen that it's not waste at all. It can be used in many ways. For example, when you separate the lithium, there are other elements inside, for example, potassium or other salt, and this water is rich and can be used, for example, in some application is used for feeding aquaculture, farm, because it's a water enriched in nutrients. So there is a very important approach now in using brine that we call circular economy, that we use all the product and trying to minimize the waste as much as possible, and also bring profit from the other portion and make this endeavor very sustainable in terms of business.
Another question that we got is, could the extraction process of the brine in that Smackover Foundation have a negative impact on the aquifers that are below the surface where we get our clean drinking water?
No, absolutely, because those are two different geological horizons. The aquifer that we use are much more shallow than the Smackover Formation. So they are not attached at all. They are totally independent. There are two different bodies, and people that rely in water for the aquifer, they have to be totally secure that they will not have an effect. We are going to be much down.
Yeah. Dr. Leo Macelloni is my guest. If you're just joining us, he is a geologist at the University of Mississippi, and he is the director of the Mississippi Mineral Resource Institute and the Center for Marine Resources and Environmental Technology. We're talking about Mississippi becoming a player in the critical minerals supplier segment of the economy for the United States, both in terms of economic development and also national security. So, if your research is able to better show what the below the surface looks like and create a roadmap for a facility to come in and to begin to extract and then distill the lithium and separate it from the brine, what does that look like from a development standpoint? Are there companies that are already closely watching your research with an eye on creating a facility to handle this?
I think it's going to be very important and impactful for Mississippi. For example, Mississippi is one of the largest automotive manufacturer in United States. So if you have a factory that produces lithium very close distance from a big automotive manufacturing center, you have cut a bunch of cost. And there is many other implications. I'm not an economist, but I can tell you any major development in economy is always founded on the resource that the state has, the natural resource. Can be energy, can be water, can be geological commodity. So that is trigger the development of any kind of industry. And we are very happy and grateful to the Mississippi Development Authority that have seen this opportunity and give us the possibility at least to explore this interesting potential.
What would it cost to open a lithium factory?
Several $1 million. We are talking about tens of $1 million. However, it's something that you don't do from today to tomorrow. There are phases, and with the Mississippi Development Authority, we are exploring this. We have applied for a grant, the Department of Energy, that basically provide seed funding to start pilot. So you start with a sort of concept of facility. And see how it plug inside of the economic fabric of the area, see how is the cost of energy, and then you scale up. But the Trump administration has put a lot of support in the Department of Energy to basically initiate this process, and we have applied on this specific grant, and we hope that we get supported so we can continue on this path.
This is it's really fascinating to me. I think I may want to go build a lithium facility. I feel like there's a great opportunity here. You want to build?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Mississippi has a lot of potential that often people don't see, but I think that we will, with our hard work, we will prove them wrong, that we have a lot of opportunity. And it's also a beautiful state, very nice people. I've been here for 20 years, and people really welcome me like a member of the family. So I'm very happy and to be able to help Mississippi as much as I can.
Hey, that's so very Italian of us to welcome you as part of the family, right? Italians are just a big family.
Yes. In fact, I felt at home immediately because people are really, really nice, like in my country, and family-oriented, strong value. So that's something that really fascinated me.
Dr. Macelloni, I appreciate so much your time this morning. It's incredibly fascinating. I wish you'd continued success in your research, and we'll hope this is a win for Mississippi. Thank you.
Me too, and we are really working hard for do that. Thank you very much for the opportunity to explain to the general public this interesting opportunity.
Absolutely, and maybe we can visit again soon. Dr. Leo Macelloni, director of the Mississippi Mineral Research Institute at the University of Mississippi, a geology professor as well. What I understand, a little hard to understand, but if you were able to really lock in some fascinating information there. We got more coming up. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi.
From the Seabrooks with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi and the SuperTalk app.
I bet you are gonna be a big star. Might win an Oscar, you can't never tell. Who's gonna make me a big star? 'Cause I can play the part so well. Well, I hope you come to see me in the movie.
This hour of mornings is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you're not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services plus a custom plan that fits you. Give them a call today, 601-206-7966, or go to mwgemployerservices.com. Thanks for joining us this morning. Happy to be joined by my first guest. Welcome in our first guest. That is Ryan Miller, who is CEO of the Oxford-Lafayette County Economic Development Foundation, recently rebranded as Oxford Lafayette, Inc. Ryan, good morning.
Good morning, Richard. How are you?
Doing well, man. Good to be with you. What is going on in the EDF world in North Mississippi, specifically in your office?
Got a lot going on. I just recently wrote a guest article for the Mississippi Business Journal where I kind of highlighted some of the successes or some of the progress that we're making in our office towards bringing new and creative jobs here to our community and growing existing industries here that we know mean a lot to our community. So we got a great deal going on, and excited to be here this morning to tell you about it.
So much of the conversation around economic development, not just in Mississippi and really not just in the Southeast, but nationally, has been around AI. And there are certainly advocates for huge data centers that are kind of creating the compute power necessary to power all of the AI entities that are out there. Mississippi has certainly taken advantage of some of those opportunities. There are people that are against that. Where do Oxford and Lafayette County fit into the AI landscape?
Well, I see AI, and I think largely, our office sees it as an amazing horizon tool. And I think that the challenge is trying to figure out all the applications for something like AI that can be used as a tool to enhance what we do, but not replace who we are. And I think that's the main concern that a lot of people have. But here locally, we have a number of companies that are using AI to grow the services that they provide, thus creating new jobs. I know you've talked with Joe Stradinger and Edge Theory. They've put their headquarters here in Oxford, Mississippi, because they have really bright, creative, innovative thinkers right across the street at the University of Mississippi. And I know they have collaborations with other universities as well, but they see it as a tool that's being used against us, but also as a tool that can be used to help defend our nation, keep us certainly cognizant of what our adversaries across the globe are doing in terms of lobbing narrative stories our way to influence our way of life. That's an AI tool that's being used to help provide for defense in our national security. And they've made their home right here. In fact, Edge Theory here recently announced that they're going to be investing $6.5 million into our community in narrative intelligence, artificial intelligence training for young people to learn how to be modern, narrant, intelligent officers, people who can decipher what our adversaries are crafting in the world of storytelling to try to influence our country. That's one example. Why Data is another group that's a startup that has decided to make Oxford and Lafayette County their home. They use AI to help provide consulting services to business, looking at supply chains, looking at logistics, using AI to be able to help predict where companies can pivot if there's a disruption in some of their business operations. They can use it as a tool. So it is a tool. But I certainly understand people's fear and trepidation over things that we don't quite fully understand where it's going. And AI is not going anywhere. I think the application of it and the use of it's only going to grow.
You know, I think about this, and I may be erring in my thinking. When in the past, one of the biggest economic development projects that any region could land would be an automobile manufacturer. And that manufacturing plant in and of itself is a huge win, but maybe the bigger long-term win for a community was all the suppliers that went along with it. So it's like you have this one big cog in the middle of the wheel, but then all of these spokes that come out of it, and you end up with lots of jobs for lots of different types of people. I'm curious if artificial intelligence in maybe this version of economic development is kind of the cog in the middle of the wheel, and then companies that have learned or are learning to use AI tools become the spokes, and that kind of can spawn a lot of different jobs, maybe across multiple industries.
Oh, there's no doubt. And of course, here in Oxford and Lafayette County, we have to look at the hub and spoke context because, again, as I've shared with you before in previous times together, we don't have the population density to land a 2,000 employee automotive manufacturing facility here. It's not to say that we wouldn't regionally go after that as a partnership, but we've got to look at some of these newer, higher tech, as I used to say, new horizon thinking industries, and AI is one of those. Pegasus mortgage technology. I think you're probably familiar with Jeffrey Little. He spent time there at FNC and certainly with collaborations with M-Trade. They have their Pegasus mortgage technology company that's about to blow up. It is it's using AI as a tool to help inform and advocate for mortgage assessments for banks, just like some of the other industries that we have here. And what they plan on doing is launching this platform and then building up partnerships, businesses, and collaborations around it. So it's essentially creating that cluster, that hub and spoke that you're describing. But again, it's an AI platform that they have developed and have specifically tailored to their needs that, they've already doubled in size since the time they landed at Insight Park across the hall from us. So they're growing, using that as a tool. And I see that as a great example. More industry is going to figure out ways to use it in ways that enhance and augment the services that we provide. But I can understand some people have some fear and trepidation. They don't want it to replace everything. And being a singer-songwriter, AI is a great tool for being creative and how you maybe arrange a song or maybe come up with ideas for production value, but you don't want it to replace the art of creating the story. And I think that's where the fine balance has to be struck.
Which AI platform is best for writing and helping inspire in music?
Look, I'm going to tell you right now.
Is it Grok? Is it Gemini? Which one is the?
I've got
brand names right there.
I use Suno, SUNO. I've been able to upload a ton of my songs that I have saved on my iPhone, just ramblings over the years, to help me arrange the song. So I'm not publishing them. I'm not putting them out there. but they do help you come up with, I want this song in this style with this type of instrumentation. It's amazing what it can do very quickly.
Ryan, one of the things that we've talked about a lot through the years, really, is regional partnerships.
Sure.
And Lafayette County, in conjunction with Panola, Tate, and Yalobusha County, has developed one of those regional partnerships. You've given us some periodic updates of what's going on. I know there's a board that has been put together, and you're kind of examining opportunities. Where is that?
Well, obviously, we continue to meet on a monthly basis. There are kind of two contexts. Obviously, there's the business attraction that we work, the folks in Tate and Panola and down in Yalobusha, we work together. I just came back from Select USA, an event in the greater Washington area that was started under the Obama administration, but it's continued to grow. And it's an entire conference based upon direct foreign investment. So Mississippi had a delegation there. We met with, from Monday through Wednesday, I can't even tell you how many companies from all around the world, all around the world, that have interest in bringing investment to the state of Mississippi. And those are projects largely that would be best suited for a regional context, large scale, high tech, needing to be in proximity to the interstate, needing to be in proximity to an airport, having rail access. And so as a regional footprint, those kinds of events are really important. And we already have a number of leads from that event that we're following up with for a regional context. But I will share this. One exciting project that we have undertaken is an airport feasibility study, a regional airport feasibility study, to determine if, specifically, if the airport in Batesville in Panola County can be utilized, expanded, augmented, and grown to service a much larger regional footprint for commercial traffic. We think it can. In fact, the initial reports we have back is that there's a population density that would greatly benefit from that. That would prevent us from having to drive 70 some odd miles to Memphis, where you could drive only 25 miles and catch a flight to DC or Dallas or Charlotte. So that project is underway, and we're aggressively pursuing a regional airport in our neighboring county.
You have piqued my interest. Let's talk a little bit more about that on the other side of this time out. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. We're visiting with Ryan Miller, CEO of the Oxford Lafayette County Economic Development Foundation. That is Oxford Lafayette, Inc. We're back with you right after this.
Maybe I'm not known for doing a lot, but I do my best work when the weather's hot. I'm pretty good at drinking beer.
From the Venable Glass Trap,
Mississippi.
You heard it here first.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Here comes the blues.
Good to be with you this morning. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank. Bank local, bank community. Ryan Miller is my guest, CEO of Oxford Lafayette, Inc. That is the Economic Development Foundation for Oxford and Lafayette County. You mentioned something right before the break, and it really piqued my interest and probably that of others. People who fly a lot, and I don't know if I fly a lot, but I fly regularly, are used to making that drive from Oxford to Memphis. You can either go through Holly Springs, or you can go through Batesville, and it takes just a touch over an hour. I did something this past week that I had never done before, which is take the flight on Contour Airlines, which is affiliated with American, from Tupelo to Dallas, and then jumped on a connection from Dallas to College Station this past week. But you're saying Batesville is a possibility going forward.
Yeah, we're again, as a regional alliance of the four counties, that have proximity to I-55, and understanding the important thoroughfare that provides. The instrumentalities of interstate commerce are rich there. But it's also, when you consider the university and its growth trajectory, the airport here in Oxford is somewhat landlocked, and expanding that would be cost prohibitive and would take a great deal of time. As we've learned, expanding an existing airport or runway to make it eligible or available for larger aircraft, and getting it certified and designated by the FAA takes twice or half the time that doing a new greenfield airport, and costs approximately half the amount of money. So while I don't know the total cost of what this would look like, that's why we have this feasibility study underway. We do think the proximity to I-55, we do think the proximity to a growing college town to have access right down the road to a larger airport that allows for not just for student and family traffic coming in for university events, but it certainly allows for area industry. We polled businesses, industries, businessmen and women who fly a lot, and all of them responded fairly favorably that having something closer to us than Memphis that would offer flights to a series of destinations would be something that would be worth pursuing.
Ryan, the comp that I immediately think of is the Fayetteville / Northwest Arkansas model. There's an old airport in Fayetteville that existed and still exists. It's called Drake Field, and it's really close to the University of Arkansas campus. But as Northwest Arkansas was exploding, as Walmart was growing and Tyson Foods and J.B. Hunt and all those others, they built XNA, which is the Northwest Arkansas Regional Airport, and it's about 40 minutes, maybe half an hour from downtown Fayetteville to XNA. But the ability to fly in and out of Northwest Arkansas is incredible. Is that kind of what we're talking about?
Yeah, I think so. And, certainly you would have to spend a little more time examining their airport and kind of the services they provide. But, yeah, I think arguably that is. We see this regional footprint is growing. And I think population density continues to come into our area, where so many other parts of the state see, population dwindling or flat. We still see precipitous growth here in our region. And because of kind of what we're trying to go after collectively for industries and businesses, we see the need for something like that as more palpable than ever. And we're excited to see where it's going. Obviously, we're still in that feasibility stage, but we're moving the ball down the field pretty quickly. And I do think that it will open up a lot of other opportunities that maybe we haven't had access to before.
There are federal subsidies that are available for low-cost carriers to get to somewhat rural locations. Is that part of the equation here?
Yeah, I think we're still keeping those options open as to whether it's a local courier. A lot of major airlines seem to be drawing down or drawing back on some of their regional footprints, and then you have some other carriers that are expanding. So whether it's a Delta or an American or a United or a Contour-like format, we're trying to keep those options open, but there's no mistake that the idea is trying to give access to major markets for our region a little bit more accessibly.
Yeah. Only 90 seconds left. We get a question on the C Spire text line about affordable housing. How much is that on your radar? The cost of real estate in Oxford and Lafayette County is it's very expensive. It's hard for people that are just starting out. Is there any sort of process that you're looking at to try to create more affordable opportunities?
Yeah, actually, within our organization, we call them action teams, are looking at ways to create perhaps even 501c3s that would allow for us to create a funding source to help people find or subsidize some of their initial rent if they're leasing property, so that can ease them into the market. We're exploring ideas like that, as well as working with developers to find ways in which we might identify land where they can build houses, quality homes, accessible homes, for a little bit less than what the market rate is at the moment. So we deal with that every day. It's not something we can control, but it's certainly something we have a voice in.
Ryan, appreciate your time very much. Always good to catch up.
Likewise, Richard. Appreciate y'all.
Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi. Back with you after this.
SuperTalk Mississippi Media Production.